The last train. The beginning. On a cold winter night, Layla, a young woman in her mid-20s, sat alone on a wooden bench at an abandoned train station. She had missed her appointment due to a car breakdown and had no choice but to wait for the last train heading to a distant town where she worked as a journalist. It was past midnight and the cold wind howled around her. Most of the station lights were out, leaving the place in near total darkness. The arrival of the train. At the stroke of midnight, the train appeared on the tracks. It looked strangely old, as if it had come from a bygone era. Its carriages were adorned with corroded copper details, and its windows emitted a faint light resembling candlelight. Layla hesitated for a moment, but the cold and solitude pushed her to board the train. The first carriage. As soon as she entered the first carriage, she noticed that the seats were made of old, torn leather, and the air was thick with the smell of mildew. There were few passengers, each sitting in absolute silence. Layla tried to strike up a conversation with one of them, but they didn't respond, as if they hadn't heard her. She felt something odd in their eyes, empty stares, as if they were nothing more than ghosts. The strange events begin. As time passed, Layla began to notice strange things. Every time the train stopped at a station, she would see bizarre scenes through the windows. At the first station, she saw a man being dragged out of his home and burned in a public square. At the second station, she saw a woman walking down a dark street, chased by a giant shadow until it devoured her. At the third station, there was a young boy crying, clutching a blood-stained toy. She tried talking to the other passengers about the scenes she was witnessing, but they continued to ignore her. The mysterious passenger. Layla sat back in her seat, contemplating leaving the train, but at that moment a strange man sat beside her. He was dressed in formal antique clothing from the 19th century, with a black hat partially covering his face. He looked at her with a cold smile and said, "You're not supposed to be here." Startled by his words, Layla asked him what he meant, but he ignored her question and began telling her the story of the train. He explained that this train was no ordinary one. It was a vessel for lost souls, those who had died under mysterious or horrific circumstances and had not found peace. The train changes its course. As he spoke, Layla felt the train's motion change. The tracks no longer seemed to run straight, but veered into a dark, endless tunnel. Suddenly, the sounds around her grew louder. Screams, crying, and hysterical laughter. The windows displayed distorted images of people trapped in eternal torment. The truth revealed. Layla asked the man why she was on this train. He replied, "This train only takes those who have a great secret or an unforgiven sin. Think carefully. What brought you here?" Layla recalled a long-buried incident. Years ago, she had caused a car accident that led to a man's death, and she had fled the scene without admitting her guilt. The weight of her guilt overwhelmed her, and she realized the train had come to put her on trial. The final confrontation. Determined to confront her past, Layla rose from her seat and faced each station as a journey of atonement. At every stop, she saw the ghost of the man she had accidentally killed. Each time, she apologized more sincerely than before. The ending. At the final station, the train stopped. The doors opened to reveal a bright, radiant light outside. She heard the mysterious man's voice saying, "Sometimes acknowledgement of guilt and repentance is the key to moving forward." Layla stepped off the train to find herself back at the station where her journey had begun. But now the sky was bright and the sun was rising. She realized the last train was nothing more than a reflection of her fears and guilt, and that she had been given a new chance to set her life right. The message. The last train symbolizes a final opportunity to reconcile with oneself, find peace, and confront the mistakes and burdens that weigh heavily on